What's an open rate? I've been asked this question of what's an ideal open rate for my email program. But before we get into that, I want to tell you what an open rate really isn't. And it isn't something that I or that many people should use as a metric for determining whether or not your program, your campaign, or whatever you're trying to measure is success or failure. An open rate really is just an invisible pixel firing. Doesn't mean that someone actually read it, doesn't mean that somebody actually engaged with it. It just simply means that something rendered. And so the debate has gone on for many years about the use of open rates and whether or not you should use them to determine the direction of your program. But first, you kind of have to say and ask yourself, how do you determine what an open rate is? And I know that kind of sounds weird, but I've seen many different vendors and agencies and consultants calculate open rates differently. So the first thing you have to do is figure out, how do you calculate what an open rate is? I've seen it as total opens over delivered. I've seen it as total opens over sends. I've seen it unique opens over sends, unique opens over delivered. And there's not really a common consensus as to how people actually determine what an open rate and how it should be calculated. As crazy as it may seem, I've actually seen people calculate open rate as opens over clicks, or the click to open rate. So before you kind of just start to say, well, what is my open rate and what should it be? You need to determine how it's being calculated, because I've gone down many roads before with clients who said, well, my open rate was X and here it's Y. And I want to know the differences. And really the difference typically is how it's been calculated. So let's talk about what is an actual open rate and what you should really use it for. And we all know that the advent of Apple's MPP, as well as many other different things that affect open rates have become less effective, right? People talk about, is the open rate dead? Is it whatever? And I'm not going to debate that. What I am going to say is that, look, use open rates primarily for, do you potentially have a deliverability problem? Looking at open rates and breaking it down by your top 5 or 10 ISPs. Looking at that and looking at trends over a period of time may or may not determine whether or not you have some sort of issue or if you're heading in the right direction. But please, when we talk about benchmarking for open rates in the industry, take a step back for a second. You're not benchmarking your open rate if you sell shoes or subscriptions, or you're a casino or a franchise marketer or a university or an association. You're not and should not compare yourself in terms of open rates, mainly because they may be calculated differently, maybe because the niches in those industries are much different. So what is an open rate? An open rate simply means that something rendered in an email. It doesn't, again, mean that someone actually read your email. It doesn't mean that somebody actually engaged in your email. So if somebody would say to me, well, gosh, Andrew, it sounds pretty much like you're thrashing open rates. And I'm not. Look, open rates are good for certain things, but not for others. And that's one of the last metrics that I would use to say is my program is doing well or my program is not doing so well. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit from what actually an open rate is. And if you have any questions, fire them off. I'll be more than happy to answer it for you guys. Until next time.